It's been hard to ignore the tragic mass shootings that have been happening in the US. And the city that I live in, Hamilton, has one of the highest rates of handgun-related crime in the country. And across Canada, gun crime has been steadily on the rise since 2013. It made me think, how safe are we in Canada? This is Can Explains Canada's gun laws. So are guns illegal in Canada?
Guns are not illegal in Canada. They are, for the most part, they are legal.
But that doesn't mean you can own any gun you want. There's actually 3 classes of firearms in Canada. Prohibited, which means they're not allowed to be owned or possessed in Canada. Restricted, which means you can own or possess these firearms, but there are very strict regulations around them, and you need a specific license. And then there's unrestricted, which although it might sound like you can just pick one up, there are still regulations, safety courses, and you need a license. All these rules are designed to keep us safe. But how effective are they? Will they help prevent something like what happened in Uvalde, Texas? Unfortunately, Canada has had its own mass shootings, the most recent one happening in Nova Scotia in April of 2020. In response, the government banned 1,500 models of what they described as assault-style weapons. But these kind of events are really rare. We need to look at the bigger picture. Around the world, Canada is tied for 4th highest gun ownership. But we're 20th in firearms-related deaths. That maybe suggests that our laws and restrictions do make us a little safer. But why is gun violence on the rise in Canada?
Today, our national freeze on handguns is coming into force.
On October 21st, the Government of Canada announced a handgun freeze, meaning people cannot buy, sell, or transfer handguns in Canada, and they cannot bring newly acquired handguns into the country. They're also trying to get a new bill passed called C-21. The bill covers a lot of details, but if passed, it would require people who are considered a danger to themselves and others to surrender their firearms, and increases penalties for illegal gun trafficking. So, will these additional laws have an impact on gun violence in Canada? Canada's Association of Chiefs of Police isn't so convinced. In a statement released in June of 2022, they said, restricting lawful handgun ownership will not meaningfully address the real issue, illegal handguns obtained from the United States. Here's a really interesting stat. In 85% of handgun crimes in 2021, the gun was traced back to the US. The illegal import and trade of handguns is a big part of our gun violence. And as Chief Bray, who is the co-chair of the CACP's Special Purpose Committee on Firearms, points out,
I don't know that that completely solves the problem, because there are some people that will ignore a law and say, I'm going to possess this type of gun anyway.
He did say that the bill will attempt to
bolster up the work that we do at the borders to try and prevent these guns from coming into our country.
There's also a newer illegal firearms problem, ghost guns. What is that, like an invisible spooky weapon that haunts you? No. Ghost guns refer to weapons that are made by individuals and almost impossible to trace.
Buying a small spring or a small part of a firearm by itself is not illegal. You can do that. And so what we're seeing is people are purchasing parts of firearms that they can't manufacture and manufacturing parts that they can with a 3D printer and then putting them together.
It is super illegal to make these 3D printed weapons. But at the moment, it is not illegal to possess the model plans to make these ghost guns. While the government hopes to pass Bill C-21, and that bill does make our gun laws stricter, it's still unclear whether that will address the issue of illegal weapons in Canada. But the data does seem to tell us that our laws are helping to keep us safer, especially when it comes to the weapons we see most often used in terrible events like Uvalde, Texas. That's it for Can Explains. For CBC Kids News, I'm Arjun Rao.